Welcome to Why Collaboration and Diversity Go Hand in Hand, presented by David Solomon-Sodimu, Program Specialist, and Annette Obika, Program Manager, and Marta Garnelo, Research Scientist from DeepMind. Annette, David, and Marta, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Hi, everyone. Annette. Oh, there we go. Hi, Annette. Cool. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this panel discussion that we're going to have on how to create an environment for collaborative innovation. My name is Marta, and I'm going to be talking to David and Annette a little bit about their experience at DeepMind, the roles, and how collaboration has an impact on what they do every day. Maybe before we get into it, I'm going to ask Annette and David to introduce themselves, say a little bit about their background and what they do. So Annette, do you want to give us a little overview?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Annette. I'm a program manager at DeepMind, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that means later on. I've been at DeepMind for the last 5 years, and the team that I currently work in focus on applying AI and machine learning to different problems within the life sciences. That's me.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Like Annette, I'm in the program management team at DeepMind as well. I am in the more operational side since I joined DeepMind July 2019. And my team, the team I sit with, is focuses on workplace innovation and employee experience. So looking at how we can innovate the workplace to support our research, and also looking at how we can get the best out of the employee experience.
Amazing. Thanks so much. Just a bit of background about myself. As I mentioned, my name is Marta, and I'm a research scientist at DeepMind. So I do very academic research on artificial intelligence. And maybe a little bit of a background around DeepMind as a company before we begin. As some of you might know, we're a London-based company, and we're doing research on artificial intelligence. And as you might imagine, this is obviously a very big goal. It also requires us to have quite a diverse team that is very interdisciplinary. And we need to, all of us from different branches, collaborate quite closely. We have scientists on our team, we have engineers, we have program managers, but we also have designers and things like ethicists, philosophers, and game designers. So there's really a lot of us that need to talk to each other. So collaboration is really quite key. The motivation behind us wanting to solve intelligence is to advance scientific research. So some of you might have heard of our more recent breakthrough of AlphaFold, which had to do around protein structure prediction. And previously, we also worked on AlphaGo, which was an AI that learned how to play the ancient game of Go. We also work with our parent company, Google, to contribute to some of their products. So the Google Assistant, we've helped out with something around battery efficiency and so on Android. Amazing. So with this out of the way, I think let's start straight away. And I think, as Annette mentioned, it would be good to get an intuition about what the role program manager even entails for those of you that might not be maybe as familiar. So can you guys please tell me a little bit about your role and what does your everyday look like?
Yeah, sure. I can give my perspective and I'll hand over to David. So I guess my day is split between 3 key elements to my role. The first is project management, which involves using different tools and techniques like Agile to help progress our research projects. And so day-to-day activities might involve things like drafting a project plan or a roadmap, writing a report to stakeholders, facilitating an ideas brainstorm with my team to come up with ideas for the next phase of a project. So lots of activities around kind of progressing and delivering our research projects. And then the second pillar is kind of around optimizing our teams and our processes. And then the final pillar is around gaining enough understanding of the research to be able to connect ideas across teams and to foster collaboration. So it's kind of how my day-to-day is split.
Thank you very much. And looking at my day, a lot of collaboration, because within the kind of this operational side of the team that I'm in, my focus, a lot of my programs are cross-functional and they're quite strategic. So then we need a lot of collaboration across. So I can be in meetings with like senior stakeholders across the OI department, trying to land strategies, trying to land communications. The day usually starts, granted, with a lot of agenda setting, planning for the day. I'm probably in the morning trying to cancel as many meetings as possible, just kind of keep the important ones in. Again, that's not in the interest of anti-collaboration, but in the interest of kind of experience and kind of sparing my time. But a lot of planning, meeting earlier in the day, and then usually having a lot of kind of meetings, one-to-ones, group sessions, brainstorming sessions, idea settings. When I get some downtime, then kind of reviewing decks and docs. But similar to kind of Annette with those 3 pillars, my focus around kind of the program management, enabling teams, and then kind of like expanding this domain kind of knowledge area.
Thanks both. That sounds really, really varied. I sometimes don't know how program managers manage to do all of those things in one. Amazing. So if we look at our title, we have the words collaborative and innovation in there. So maybe a question that would stand out is, why is collaboration important for innovation? Since we've put them together, maybe we can focus a bit more specifically on why, even more so for an AI company. And what does it even mean? What do we mean by, why have we said collaborative innovation in the title? Yeah, maybe David, do you have any?
Yeah, sure. I definitely think one of the things that stood out to me, especially when I joined DeepMind, is that, I know it's going to sound quite cliche, but true innovation does actually happen with collaboration. I think when you look at kind of, you have, especially at DeepMind, or when you have, or when you're able to collaborate, you have diversity of perspectives, especially depending on how diverse the teams are, right? Different backgrounds, different insights, different ideas, even culturally as well. These things can kind of contribute. I think, we take the role of a program manager, which we remove blockers and we enable teams. This then allows research scientists kind of at DeepMind to do what they do best and think creatively, without worrying about kind of these practical blockers that kind of program managers can help. So again, that collaboration then allows that space for creative thinking, which then allows for innovation. In traditionally, I always thought of like the program management role as quite a bit of a support role, but in reality, it is quite collaborative, I would say. And then, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the program management role has really evolved in such a way that it's now more of like a partnership and definitely a collaboration between teams and our research teams and our program management teams. And yeah, I think innovation and collaboration go hand in hand. You can't have innovation without collaboration, in my opinion. You can't have great innovation without collaboration. And there's research that shows that innovation can directly be correlated with the number of connections that people have within an organization. There was a study, I think it was back in 2004, that showed that. And I think it's so important to bring together these different fields and new perspectives, and really effective collaboration. So removing the barriers to collaboration allows us to actually harness the benefits of diversity, because there is no point in having a diverse team with lots of different perspectives if you're not collaborating, if you're not effectively collaborating, if you're not speaking to each other, and if people don't feel psychologically safe to share their perspectives. And so, for example, like you said earlier on, Marta, at DeepMind, it's really important because we have scientists, engineers from multiple domains, like from neuroscience, deep learning, life sciences, ethics, and it goes on. So yeah, it's really important for everyone to feel comfortable and able to share their perspectives in order to innovate effectively.
So can I just jump in here and go a bit off script as well? I want to throw a thing off.
Of course.
I think when I reflect, especially at AI companies in which AI is seen kind of is the thing of the future, and we look at tackling things like bias in systems, right? It's only through collaboration and those kind of things can you kind of innovate those systems, right? Because it's all about data at the end of the day and what data we have. Mm-hmm. So, with kind of collaboration and having different perspectives, it allows for different kind of data to kind of remove things like bias and truly innovate, I would just say.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah. And I guess it's also kind of hard. I mean, collaboration, as Annette also mentioned, you have to get people together, and often we have different languages, right? And it's hard to get everyone to be on the same page. Do you more practically, maybe, how do you go about creating these collaborative environments, right? Like you said, Annette, something where people feel like they can collaborate. Is there any practical steps? Or
Yeah, of course. So yeah, this forms quite a big bulk of my role actually as a program manager, and specifically on the optimizing teams and processes pillar. So as program managers, we also do a lot of coaching with researchers and engineers on our team to make sure that people are performing at their best. And it also involves kind of proposing and managing different team processes, things like onboarding people onto the team, things like having a monthly meeting where all the different research projects give updates on what's going on. So that's kind of like the optimizing teams and processes side of things. Another thing that I do is, which I think is really important for creating this kind of environment, is just fostering a healthy and inclusive team culture. And that's so important for this, because and one thing that I do, which really helps with this, is establishing and agreeing team norms and practices when starting up a new project. And that can be implicitly or even explicitly having a session and saying, let's agree on the ways we're going to work with each other. Let's agree on how we're going to communicate. And just having that written down can really help with making sure that people are mindful of the way that they're interacting with each other. And things like organizing regular team lunches and socials really helps to bond the team and create that psychological safety needed for people to feel comfortable to share their ideas. And then I guess the last thing is around kind of creating the right forum. So depending on the needs of the team at the time, facilitating like a brainstorm, organizing a focus day or a focus week, figuring out the right rhythm of sprints and stand-ups. All these things really help us to make progress with velocity. And also the last thing I'll say is celebrating successes and learning from failures by doing regular retrospectives is so important as well. Again, for fostering that kind of healthy and inclusive environment.
Definitely agree. And if I also think about kind of in ways I try to, or even look at to emulate in terms of fostering collaboration, I think one of the things about me that I think is a strength of me is that I am a people person. I love people. Hopefully people love me as well. But I like to be in that space with people. So when I think about these kind of spaces, I try to focus on ways to make these spaces comfortable and open for people to have these conversations. I think, when we're at work, depending on especially the kind of context we're in, you're making big strategic decisions that will affect a lot of people. Or sometimes you're making difficult decisions as well, and these decisions may be to do with change as well. So people are going through their own change process as well. So how do you make the space as comfortable as possible? That's something I focus on. So if I'm taking for meeting example, depending on the kind of meeting, I try to create a psychologically safe environment. I think that's really important in terms of where people can feel comfortable and feel able to speak out. So that might be through little icebreakers or a bit of humor when we do introductions, etc. Just to kind of set that tone. I think also, even in the way we can manage these meetings, like having clear objectives and outcomes, so that when you look back on the meeting, you're able to say, look, we did this, we accomplished this. Again, makes people feel more accomplished, makes people feel like they took value out of the meeting. Again, I think that's, fostering that kind of collaborative element. So when people think back to the meeting and people that were in that meeting, they're like, that was a great meeting. And then, moving forward, you're able to kind of set good foundations for that team. And then also, I think getting buy-in from everyone, allowing people to feel like part of the session, trying to include people as much as possible, I think is super important as well in terms of doing that. And I think kind of like Annette said, and following on from her, generally it's important to reflect on team culture and kind of on a wider level to kind of review how we're collaborating with each other, understand what went well, what didn't go well, whether that's on a meeting basis, quarterly basis, monthly basis, etc. Retrospectives are super important to take learnings. Like Annette said as well, team socials are always a good way to bring the team together. Lunches, going out, a space that's away from work for people to kind of can still feel together. And also me personally, I try to reflect on myself and how I collaborate with people. Am I kind of open and approachable in those kind of ways as well? Those are kind of things that I think about when I'm fostering collaboration. I guess. So I know we spoke a lot about our role, Marta. I guess what about you in terms of your perspective as a collaborating as a research scientist? What examples, if you have any, can you share around you seeing good collaboration and ways you foster collaboration? It would be great to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was thinking actually a little bit about the role of the PGM, right? So I came from academia before this, and then this role doesn't exist. So this was something very new to me, but very quickly I kind of came to appreciate a lot of the points exactly that you guys were just mentioning right now. One of them, so in academia, often a lot of this work falls on the group lead, who often doesn't have the time for this, right? So it's amazing to have a team that, exactly as both Annette and David actually pointed out, you have optimized a lot of the processes. You help out with meetings. You really set a lot of stuff up that is it shouldn't be taken for granted, but that we are almost now used to. We're spoiled. We have someone who helps us with this and makes it so much easier to collaborate. And not only, especially in regards to collaboration, I find that in academia, often researchers are a bit siloed because there is no one that connects you or knows who you should be talking to. Whereas with the role of program manager, often, as Annette also mentioned, you have a bit of a high level overview and they will point you to a similar project, similar research, and tell you who to talk to, which I think is super valuable as a researcher. And finally, I think personally, what I found very useful as well is in terms of having this a bit safe space that, well, yeah, both David and also Annette mentioned. Whenever I needed support, whether it was having some questions or some challenges, or whenever there was a miscommunication, it doesn't happen often, but sometimes it's good to have someone there that knows how to deal with this, that is maybe not directly involved in that miscommunication, and someone to go talk to, and that smooths out any miscommunications half the time, before it becomes something. So I found that incredibly useful, really, as a researcher. To have the support throughout is really a privilege from our side. I also wanted to point out to the listeners, if you guys have any questions, by the way, that you want to pop into the chat or submit, then this is something that we will also take questions as we go from you guys, if you want to ask something in particular.
Sure, Marta, in our doc at the bottom, there's some questions there if you want to see those.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. I'll have to with one eye need
yeah, sure.
check that. Thank you. Cool. So maybe a little bit, we know a little bit of your background, but how did you get into program management, into this role, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So my program management journey started in 2014 when I joined a tech consultancy as kind of a trainee project manager there. My background was law. I studied law at college, uni, went to law school. Did a couple of years of pro bono law as well before deciding to kind of do something a bit different. And then I fell into project management at this tech company in 2014 and really enjoyed it there, stayed there for a couple of years with the view to going back to law. But it just once I fell into project management and kind of saw the transferable skills, I really did enjoy it. So kind of stayed there, went to a startup, helped to grow a startup from about 25 to 60 people with it for another 2.5 years. And then before ultimately moving into, and at that time I had been doing a lot of tech project management, and towards the end of the startup I had the opportunity to grow into more operational program management. And then when the role at DeepMind came up for this kind of operation kind of focused program manager, then I kind of came here. So that's my background. And now again, like I said, I was able to step into this role where I'm looking at workplace experience, workplace innovation, employee experience, and also a focus on change management as well. What about you, Annette? What's your path into?
So my path is a little different, actually. So I originally studied psychology at uni, and then thinking that I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, changed my mind during my course. And after graduating, I worked in various roles in different places, including an engineering consultancy, which were delivering infrastructure projects in developing countries. I worked for a business psychology consultancy doing recruitment at a mid-tier accountancy firm. And yeah, various different kind of operational roles. And through those experiences, I think I learned that although I didn't know what I wanted to do eventually, I did know 3 things. That I wanted to work in an organization or an industry that was working towards making positive social impact, that I'm good at understanding people and enjoy helping people, and that I really enjoy being busy and business and variety. And I really just kind of let those 3 principles guide me on my journey. And so I joined DeepMind working in recruitment about just over 5 years ago. And since then moved into program management and have worked in different teams as a program manager. And yeah, so I guess all that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but knowing the types of things that I enjoyed and that I'm good at and wanted to achieve positive social impact kind of helped me identify in each of those roles that I was in, what developmental opportunity I should choose to pursue next. And that's kind of how I ended up in my current role.
Amazing. Thanks so much. I didn't know the psychology part, so now I learned about you. That's so cool. So somewhat related. So now that you have been, you seem to like your role. So is there what particularly excites you about being a program manager at DeepMind?
It's definitely still about the people for me. And, I'm passionate about helping people achieve their goals and be their best selves. And I actually think that's what drew me towards psychology initially in the first place. But now my job in tech kind of allows me to do that in a different way. So I work with scientists and engineers and use my skills to create a pathway to and an environment for success. And whether that be, thinking, as I was mentioning earlier, thinking of a creative and inclusive way to facilitate an ideas brainstorm when half the people are on video call and half are in person in the room, or working with a research leader to structure the team in a way that enables every person in that team to be successful. So yeah, I think it's definitely all about helping people and working with people. What about you, David?
So for me, I think, when people think about I think, especially when people think about kind of DeepMind, they think about kind of a lot of the research side, and we have a lot of researchers, a lot of geniuses around, just in general across the whole company, actually. And also but we do have like a lot of people in the operational side, like like myself, even within the kind of program management team, like myself and Annette. And I think one of the things that within my role that I'm really grateful for and really excites me is obviously the opportunity to collaborate with people. I meeting different people from across the org, hearing their stories, what they're working on. You can always have an interesting conversation with someone at DeepMind, regardless of what team they're in, whether they're working on language models or whether we're trying to land a new initiative on the operations side. You're always having like amazing conversations with everyone across DeepMind. So I really do love that. And and a challenge as well. DeepMind, we're growing, rapidly. We're ambitious with our ambition, what we're trying to solve. So, it's a challenge, right? And I'm not there, running tests with the.
Has David also frozen for you, Annette?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, we'll see. Okay.
I think my internet just.
We lost you real quick. Yeah.
So I was just saying, like, I love working with people, and the challenges as well. Like the challenges of working in an AI company, trying to land big strategic initiatives as well, is something that definitely excites me as well. One of my latest programs was how we get everyone back in the office post-pandemic, and that was a massive challenge, especially with changing circumstances, etc. But again, it gave me a chance to collaborate with people. So I can't really complain.
Yeah, I was going to say at the beginning when you mentioned you work and obviously around office spaces and with the pandemic, that must have been a big challenge now to adapt. So yeah, well done to you so far. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Cool. So I think so. The role of program manager, I think, exists in other fields, but we're in AI, artificial intelligence, which it's a bit of a weird one, I'd say, right? Was there anything that surprised you guys when you joined about artificial intelligence or about working in AI?
Yeah, so I think one of the first things we speak about in these spaces, we speak about kind of, I guess, or we allude to usually is about this imposter syndrome, right? I'm coming in as a program manager into this AI field where basically everyone has a PhD, right? And you're just thinking, I don't have this PhD, but and there's so many specialists in the field. But one of the things that was most surprising is just how keen and open everyone is. Like everyone appreciates the value you bring to the role. I mean, you've interviewed for the role, you've come into the role, so you're valued for what you can bring. You've got your own kind of special talents, and how receptive it was, and how the fact that there is a space for everyone. It doesn't have to be just for research scientists, regardless of your background. There's a space for everyone to come into the field, and also, like I keep on saying the word collaborative, but it's collaborative, right? So you can always learn as well. You can learn from other people, etc. Let me not ramble on too much. Annette, what about you?
No, I completely agree. Basically, yeah, I think you don't need. What really surprised me when I first started working in AI is that you don't need to be an AI expert to work in AI. You definitely don't. You just need to be curious and willing to learn. By that, I don't mean being ready to learn everything there is to learn about AI, but be curious enough to explore and discover which part of AI or the related fields that interests you. And that could be AI ethics and safety, project management, workplace innovation, system support, AI for health, AI for life science. The list goes on. And once you find that area that really interests you, the learning will become easy because it's driven by genuine interest and curiosity.
I don't know if you want to, Marta, I don't know if you want to just jump to some questions, just so, because there's a few questions at the end of the doc that we could just maybe go through.
There are, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, sounds good. So the first question we have is from Samson, and he asks, how can someone with a life science background who's worked on tech go into the right role at DeepMind?
Oh, okay. This is similar to what Annette said, isn't it?
Yeah. So kind of what I was saying is that, just kind of finding a niche area or a specific part of the AI world that really interests you and diving deep into that. We don't just hire people with like a computer science and machine learning background. We have so many adjacent roles. I don't come from an AI background. David, I don't think you come from an AI background. So, there are so many different roles within the AI space that you can contribute to, and including people from like life science backgrounds. So we have neuroscientists, we work with biologists, we work with people who have a chemistry background and a physics background. And so, just always keep an eye on the DeepMind website because we're always hiring for a real variety of roles. And if you're not sure, my advice would just be put your application in anyway and express your interest because you never know what roles might be coming up soon.
Yeah. And I think in general, just life advice, if you feel like this is a field you're excited about, don't be afraid into switching. My undergrad was biochemistry, and now I'm a scientist even, so like at DeepMind. So really you can still, it's never too late to switch. So for sure. And amazing. We have another question from Olubafemi. He asks, with regards to collaborating innovatively, does talent take precedence or having a certificate that you to put up? So I assume that you can show.
I can share my I can share my opinion on this, which is I think talent is so important, and there are so many different ways to demonstrate your talent, right? Yes, like qualifications and certificates are very important, but there are other ways of contributing to things that demonstrate your talent, like open source repositories and things like that. And also people who join DeepMind. There are people who join DeepMind without a university education, and DeepMind values and demonstrating those kind of values are really important. So the DeepMind values, things like kindness, curiosity, willingness to learn, those are the kinds of things that are really important to try and demonstrate. And there's many different ways of doing that beyond certification. I don't know if Marta or David, you have anything to add?
No, I think that's
that was beautifully said. Yes. Maybe a question from Lucia, who asks, how much interaction do you have with potential end users of the research that your team ends up working on? For example, for the life sciences, do you actually talk to pharma companies, regulators, and so on? Anyone?
Yeah, so I think, our roles are quite internally focused, so probably not an expert on this, but I know in like the life science world, for example, we do collaborate a lot with external institutions and external experts a lot. And a good example of this is the recent AlphaFold announcements, where we collaborated with the European Bioinformatics Institute on releasing that database of the human proteome. So I think that's like a really clear example of like where a really good partnership between DeepMind's experts and external experts has worked really well. And we also engage with like leading bioethicists and protein folding researchers in advance of that announcement. So yeah, we're always collaborating with people externally to get input on what we do.
Amazing. I have a question for David specifically, so I can go ahead and ask that from Olubafemi again. Can you build a program for people to learn the Yoruba language? I'm a Yoruba tutor and trying to find my feet getting on up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Yoruba as well. That's my background, so I can. So this is one of interest to me. So in terms of like when you say build a program, I hope you like. I think, to clarify, we're talking about technical program, or we're talking about more of a program plan, right? So I'll speak more as a program manager, I'll speak more of a kind of a program planning. Program planning is just about, how we plan delivering something that, something, whether it's an initiative, whether it's a collection of projects, etc. So can you practically build a plan? Yes. You know what I mean? You can look at how you design it. You can get some data. We can define, design, and then we can then, build and then deliver, right? So we can do that. If you're technically talking about building a technical program, like a Duolingo for Yoruba, I'm sure it's possible somewhere, but I can't give too much insight into that. But definitely in terms of, I think program is just basically a structure in terms of how you go about delivering this Yoruba program. So from that element, that's always kind of feasible. I don't know if you're asking me if I can do it personally. Like maybe it's not something on my OKRs this year, but it's definitely something that can be done in general.
If you, Olubafemi or David, get that set up, I'd love to. I'm half Yoruba as well. I'd love to get involved. So let me know.
I actually didn't even know that. So that sounds so interesting to me as well. But also, sorry, one thing that I did want to point out as well, but when we're talking about kind of just languages in general, just kind of at DeepMind, is definitely something that that kind of a lot of people in the AI space are kind of thinking about. And so I wanted to recommend something which is Deep Learning in Indaba, which is one of the kind of the biggest kind of machine learning summer schools in Africa. So and there's a paper there as well that we can kind of send the link out afterwards, or can share the link out as well. But definitely there's this whole kind of like language modeling is definitely something that's been looked at across different places in AI.
Cool. Sorry, guys. I'm aware that they're going to cut us off in about like 30 seconds. So I just make sure that I thank both David and Annette so much for a lot of their insights. Thank everyone for attending. If you have more questions, we're going to have the recruitment team here in the booth until 5. So you can ask questions. There's a form you can submit and fill out and add your CV if you want to register interest and stay in touch. And any other questions that we might have not been able to cover, ask. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks so much for your questions. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye.